Hello, 0K fans. This is Shadow Fury CC3 along with
Saktoth.
And we're going to be casting the 2v2 tournament for October. And possibly Floris may join us later, but for now, it's the two of us. We are going to, well, start bringing it to you as soon as... Oh, hey, and Floris might in fact be joining us right now. Okay, well, I'll get Floris on as well. But yes, we are going to be casting the October 2v2 tournament. Now, this tournament is a little bit smaller than last time. And I mean, quite a bit smaller. It's 6 teams this time around. We have had a bit of a drop-off in players, unfortunately, since August, but we should be okay. Okay, Floris can come in.
We have some good matchups, though. I mean, we have the Google Frog acronym team playing. And they're both friends and they know each other in real life, so they can probably sometimes come out with some interesting stuff. And RyMarq and Laurie, really, really good team.
Yeah, well, definitely good individually. Anyway, I'm just gonna get Floris on here. Oh, or not. Well, yeah, I can see that. I'm curious. I think who probably of the first set we're gonna see here, because the thing is, the first set's gonna be Flipstip Norm versus Orfelius RyMarq, which we'll get to as soon as they start here. That's the first set, and whoever wins that fights Google Frog acronym, and that's gonna be tough. I mean, I think in both cases it's gonna be really tough for anyone to push past the seeds.
Yeah, I think Flipstip and Norm have a chance. I mean, they're pretty good. Acronym's a bit of a... He's not as experienced as Google. Google's choosing someone he knows rather than someone who's, you know, as high skill as him.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has worked out in the past, because if you look at the earlier tournaments, then I actually have to double check a couple things, but I think the earlier tournaments had... Okay, I can't remember where bracket is, but yeah, I'm sure they have done well, or relatively well. Just looking at the old brackets, if I can find who won August, I believe it was one of Cubase teams, but I'm not sure. And I don't have the brackets on here for some odd reason. What the heck? Okay, there we go. Found the brackets, and it was, in fact, Google Frog and Acronym that won the last tournament against Magman and Cubase 3-1 in the finals. So they have won before.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely good. But I think Magman... Sorry, excuse me. Magman and Cubase matchup is, I think that was a bit of an upset, as I recall. Mm-hmm. And they weren't facing necessarily who they weren't facing necessarily who they expected to be facing. So maybe sort of the Cubase Magman matchup combo was not quite as strong. Cubase's a very strong player, but he pulls out a lot of really weird stuff, like a lot of weird strategies.
Yeah, he tends. Although admittedly, it's not going to matter so much now since he's not in.
Yes, but I think this time we're going to see something maybe a little more steady and predictable. Something from like RyMarq and Laurie. I expect them to have, I expect them to have fewer, you know, sort of mad strategies and more just like solid play. Flipstip and Norm will also be interesting. I think they'll also, I think mostly from all these guys, we'll just see a lot of really solid play rather than any sort of crazy 2 versus 2 strategies where you get like gunships and planes and then try and, you know, beat them with that, or you try and do a drop with transports and like a jack drop or something really early on to try and eliminate one player.
With Google Frog, I could see warrior drops. That's pretty common.
he does stuff like that, but he's a very he does weird sort of weird things, like he uses terraforming and he uses, you know, all these, you know, he uses nano frames in interesting ways and uses different units, but it's not sort of like a cheese. He's not much of a cheese player.
Good morning.
He does.
And Floris is joining us as well. Hello, Floris.
Hello, Shadow Fury. And Saktoth, I believe.
Hello, Floris.
Okay, so the game is just about to get started. Well, just about. The players are... They have their maps, they have their positions, they are about to go. They're just setting up Mumble, apparently.
Ah.
And then once that is up, we shall begin this tournament. And stop doing just a bunch of intermissions and speaking over the over the bracket image. That's all that's on stream right now.
Ah, okay. You can talk about Flipstip.
We could talk about Flipstip. I haven't seen Flipstip play in a while, though, but Flipstip is a fairly solid player overall, at least in 1v1. But
yeah, Flipstip is very high elo, and his team elo is high too, so...
Looks like he's in the Swiss. He's from Belgium, I believe.
Oh. That's true. Which kind of surprises me that it took them a while to get in, but that will be... Well, it'll be irrelevant now. I mean, they're in. Why are we not... Oh, okay. Flipstip's still configuring their Mumble. So we're waiting on that.
It'll be interesting to see whether voice communication helps them in any kind of coordination more, because it's one of the things we haven't seen nearly as much. Is coordination between the players, where they're, it's more sort of either they're playing on their own, or it's one player who's dominating some sort of cheese strategy, rather than sort of like really like hand in glove coordination, where they're all pushing on a single front and sort of sniping out one player with their strength and then moving on to the next one, those sort of things. That there's a lot more space in 2 vs 2 to explore, which has not been explored yet.
Yeah, although I'm not sure how much explore we're going to see on a tournament stage. I mean, we have seen some before, but it's mostly tournaments in general, mostly where things are proven, not where things are explored. But
yeah, I think that you'll be surprised sometimes, because people will have a trick they've been practicing in private, and they want to pull it out on the tournament. They don't want to be popular beforehand. They don't want anyone to know that they're planning on doing something. But mostly that's for cheeses and things, I suppose.
Yeah. All right, we are about to get. Are we about to get started? Because the player's not quite started yet, so we are waiting on that. And let's see, who else? What should we talk about? Well, there's RyMarq, the C balance guy. Or person.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this isn't a C map. Conquest of Paradise is not a C map, so I don't expect that to really come up here. But then again, RyMarq is still a fairly solid player overall. Also a massive fan of the Jumpbot factory. Like, basically a Jumpbot specialist in their own right. Very scary of them.
RyMarq came in and sort of like he made this big post on balance and made a lot of salient points that a lot of people agreed with. And since then, he's been working on his elo a lot. And getting his 1 vs 1 elo in particular is what he's interested in, 1 vs 1. Higher and higher and higher. And now he actually has a really reasonable 1 vs 1 elo score. And, giving him C balance to play with and stuff, because he has a lot of opinions on what he'd like to do with things. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in a 2 vs 2 context.
Yeah, that will be.
Are C maps actually allowed in this tournament?
I don't recall them being specifically banned. There's nothing that's mentioning it. None of the opening maps are C.
We saw some last time, I think.
We did, actually. That was some pretty... Those were the first matches I ever saw of Inculta Wet.
Yeah, I think Inculta Wet's actually the test case for C balance, or one of them. And I think we can expect RyMarq and Orfelius to bring out a C map as their losing match if they lose a match.
Yes, if they lose.
Definitely.
I think 2 vs 2 is actually rather interesting. I think 1 vs 1 still has a little bit of problems. The factory lineups are not quite perfect, but 2 vs 2 allows you to field 2 factories, and that sort of really allows you to cover for some of the weaknesses of the other factory. So it becomes, it becomes a lot more interesting. I think it's less a little less chaotic.
What the? Oh, did we just drop? Oh, no, sorry. Anyway, yes. So that is going to be what we'll see. Is a much more solid match overall, I think. I mean, especially just given the players involved. None of the players typically known for trolly or cheesy strategies are in. I mean, Magman was in for a little while.
Flipstip does his fair share of cheese.
I think Flipstip he does com rushes, I think, is it?
Yeah, that's not really cheese. That's just
so basically it's... Yeah, this is probably going to be quite solid overall. I mean, Magman got swapped out for RyMarq because Magman couldn't show up. And Sailman's not in this time around.
I've seen Orfelius do a couple of air starts yesterday.
Well, air start isn't really a cheese. That's pretty solid when it comes to 2v2. Or do you mean 1v1?
Oh, those were 1v1 game
What maps?
with bombers in 1v1.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it
It does
depends on the
depend on the map. But,
If it's ravaged or something like that, that's fine.
I wonder
It's-
if they, how the metagame has changed over the couple months, and if one air player from 2v2 and up is the norm now.
One air player
It's-
2v2 is not unusual, but it isn't required.
It's been surprising to me that it's not required. I keep expecting the meta to shift that way, that 2 versus 2 there's always one air player. Because 1 versus 1 people are doing air starts so often these days, even in 1 versus 1, that I'm just expecting it to happen in 2 versus 2. But we've seen so many tournaments won by players who are primarily going land factors.
So here we go. I like the map though. It's just a really nice map for 2v2 especially.
Yep. So
Lots of places to expand and still close enough for good fights.
Okay, we are finally starting. This game is about to get underway. Once my loading screen is done loading. Yeah, so the first match is going to be Flipstip and Norm versus Orfelius and RyMarq, as we have been suggesting, by speaking exclusively about them and not talking about people in the group B. And now the game has pretty much begun. Players have not really been discussing strategy too much in here.
RyMarq suggesting a brawler rush, which I think is a very interesting
Oh yeah,
thing.
that's true.
But we're only getting one side of the conversation because there seems to be only one person on each team which has a microphone. So they're just talking over text. It looks like they're having a conversation with each other, but they're actually talking over text. And we can't hear the other side of the conversation because it's all over the microphone.
Yeah, that's a little bit silly, but it should be at least somewhat understandable, if nothing else.
Flip and Norm start in a corner, both on the same side of the map, instead of both in the center, like RyMarq and Orfelius do.
So given this, I say RyMarq definitely has a bunch of free territory. I mean, it's obvious RyMarq has a bunch of free territory, as does Norm. RyMarq and Norm definitely are going to have to take advantage of that, though. Orfelius and RyMarq. Let's see, RyMarq going for jump, Orfelius going... will be ultimately going for shields. Norm and Flipstip going for air and Cloaky, respectively. Swift start.
So, as soon as Orfelius and RyMarq figure out the starting locations, I wonder how quickly RyMarq will send constructors to the lower part of the map, and how he will cover the incoming route over the left corner with radar.
Yeah,
Because
Right now he's spammed out 2 pyros though before he made his second metal extractor. So he's stalling pretty hard. He's gone for a really aggressive pyro start.
Yeah, however, that also holds true for Norm. Norm can take the north now. Norm's fully aware where the start locations are.
Yeah.
But of course has to rely on Flipstip to defend, which will be a little bit tricky, but probably not too bad.
Yes, and all factories are known to all players now.
Yep.
It's a good idea really here to start an air player in a pocket position where they can be defended more easily by ground units. And if he gets an air constructor, which is really common in 1 versus 1 air start these days, get an air constructor, take a lot of territory. He might be able to get some of the areas around the bottom, because RyMarq has these heavy pyros that if he doesn't keep these alive, and they're moving into the rush now for the attack now, if he doesn't keep these alive, he can't actually contest territory nearly as well as a factory with cheaper raiders.
Yes, and that will be a bit of a problem. However, there's going to be 2 ravens and a crane. And a little bit unusual is the fact that there are the Swifts coming in, but still, the pyros doing some damage, not a huge amount. The first pyro goes down pretty quick.
Yep.
Second pyro, however, also goes down thanks to a raven.
Gets it. He should have expected the
but
bomber.
bandits are coming in on top of that. However, yeah, that fact has only one raven.
Bomber is reloading, so Bomber's can achieve something here.
But yeah, I think Norm was much more concerned about an air start from Team Blue, rather than being concerned about everything else. So the thing is, at this point, those early Swifts are not giving really any potential for damage.
They're doing a perfect job, those Swifts.
Really? Think so? Because they're doing a bit of...
They clean up all the raiders. They got all the information they needed from an area where they didn't have radar. And he still keeps all of them.
That's true.
It's safer to start Swift because you can scout more easily, because you can hit raiders, and they're actually particularly good against bandits. Glaives regenerate, so between attack runs, the glaive will regenerate the full hit points. Bandits don't regenerate, which means that you can actually wear them down over time. Which is
now
Swift.
the constructor will die.
It's more just a matter of timing, I think. However, it doesn't really matter because the Ravens are out, and now the Crane is Crane's about to be built.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a Thug Law switch out of Orfelius, while Archangels are just about finishing for RyMarq.
Yeah, RyMarq is the one with proper anti-air measures.
Although they're going to not really benefit from it, being that Glaives are coming along the side. Glaives are coming along the south, though. That's the one thing. Flipstip is sending a bunch of Glaives down along the south side to attack the southeast corner, while RyMarq has nothing to defend with. Flipstip continuing to just build out Glaives.
I foresee big problems for Orfelius without anti-air of any sort. He has a Newton to take to catch the bomber, but it's just one.
Yeah, that will help a bit, but really the problem is.
It helps. It helps to catch. But he might lose his commander now.
Oh, the commander's about to go down, and actually, those Newtons doing it.
Yes,
oh,
it does.
It goes through the shields, and right then the Glaives come into the south side as well.
He tried to be a little bit too clever with the bombers and trap more than one, and just sort of like pull them around and stuff, which just very almost worked. And he killed 2 of the bombers, which is really, really good. You can see there's one being dragged down now, which is
it's kind of funny,
a good
but
result.
I like it.
But yeah, it managed. But unfortunately, he lost the commander, which is.
But it's totally worth it to exchange 2 bombers for a commander.
I think it was 3 bombers.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is at this stage of the game. Yeah, whether it's worth it. I don't think it is. I think maybe a little bit later, but he's losing too much income. He's lost his constructor expanding in the north. RyMarq's lost his constructor expanding in the south. So yeah, are you saying it's worth it for Flipstip?
Yes, it's totally worth it for Norm.
Yeah, definitely for Norm. That was fine. It's just for Orfelius and RyMarq because
stops the construction of more defenses in the center. It stops the construction of more metal extractors through the center.
It cuts the economy down by a third.
Yes, and on top of that, he loses 4 income.
Oh, and Archangel. Okay, Glaive coming in. It looks like Flipstip just trying to go in for the kill here. I mean, Glaive's coming in through the center. There's some resistance, but not a whole lot. Although enough puppies have been built up, emergency puppies being built up, which will help out. But even without that, Glaive still managing to get through, and at the same time we have the Ravens coming along the south just to double check.
Yes, I really like how Norm is rechecking the lower right corner to see if he can catch another constructor.
Yeah, that is always a good idea.
Both scouting and and now he'll catch another pyro.
There's no defenses in the back for those 4 Glaives, so other than a Newton. So they are building over Lotus now, so they might be a little bit too late.
They'll will be fine, but it's not you don't want to make more defenses in your base at this point.
Well, it doesn't really matter because they're going over to the northeast corner, getting rid of what Orfelius has built outside of their main base. And yeah, RyMarq and
matter
Orfelius.
Of time before they find Orfelius constructor in the top right again, and he'll lose those maxes and the constructor.
Well, that's happening right now.
In the lower left,
right now, indeed.
Norm has created a crane, as I said, and he's taking the lower left expansion. This gives him some power to expand sort of very far away from his base and make up for the fact that he started in the upper left.
Yeah, this crane is doing a nice job, and it's actually spread everything across. So at this point, Flipstip and Norm really don't have any loss of map control, despite having started off in the corner rather than the center.
That Archangel hasn't done much against the air.
Yeah, the only thing except for the Archangel is that it hasn't died to the Glaive attacks yet. That's about all I can say positive about it.
Puppies are a really good choice here because they can hit bombers as well, and there's a fair bit of reclaim with the commander in the map, so I like that choice, but
it's not really being used especially well.
I think attacking in the middle there, attacking the Conjurer and Lotus under construction was not perhaps the best use.
Yeah, well now there are some puppies that are gooing up. They are taking that commander wreck, they are working from it, so that is at least something. Managing to get some multiplication going, get a couple extra puppies for free. But at the same time...
Well, it's not exactly... The thing is, Orfelius, he had... oh, here comes a big bomber.
Oh, this is going to get rid of the factory right off. I mean, the air factory is going to be probably targeted... Oh, no, just the Conjurer being targeted directly. Not even going for the factories yet, just going for the mexes and caretakers. And a couple Swifts have been built, though.
Oh, look at the Newton. It's like having great fun. I don't know how productive it was, but it's having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Orfelius probably did mean to use that seriously. And the one in the center, the grabbing works nicely, but repelling doesn't so much. I think that might have been a mistake.
I think he didn't. He forgot to set it to attract.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I'm pretty sure that because it's defaults repel.
Yeah.
Which makes sense against ground units, but not against air. And Pyros the sun as well, nice.
Yeah, they get rid of the glaives. But now RyMarq has 4 Pyros again, but now anti-air.
Yeah, 5 Pyros actually.
Most of the bombers have been killed, by the way. He had 4, he has only 1 left. So those Pyros are effective again. They can achieve something.
And actually, at this point, Orfelius and RyMarq are starting to restabilize. The southeast has been retaken, the northeast is getting recontrolled, or at least it's contested, but still getting back under their control. However, their military is not
behind in economy so much.
They are behind in economy a lot, but if they manage to get their, I think if they get the rating just right, if they get the southeast focused on that, the Pyros are, sorry, southwest. Pyros are focusing on the southwest, which is really good to see. Getting rid of the crane. Are they going to catch the crane? Well, they caught one of the cranes. They caught the other crane. Nice. This Pyro goes down and, well, rather goes to the southwest. That'll be very nice to see. And the center over, much better defended. That's going to be impossible to break at this point with what they have.
Yeah, I mean, Flipstip is building up warriors, Rokos, and Zeuses. This is just a slow push Cloaky force.
Yeah, very typical at this stage in the game.
Yeah, Orfelius doesn't have a shield block going yet at all. He has a lot of constructors, so he could possibly transition that into a felon, but he's mostly focusing on static defenses right now, just to try and hold.
Yeah, although at this point the map control is relatively even. The northeast needs to be retaken. That's the one big thing. They need to retake that northeast side because that needs to be just built up. It looks like Orfelius is throwing in the towel. RyMarq presumably joining their teammate, and we're going to see game 2.
No, they're not done yet. Not yet.
They're not done yet, but it looks like
but they want to give up anyway.
Resign.
Well, it's hard to win from here, but
it is, but it's definitely, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's doable. I mean, those Pyros are doing a nice job. They're still not dead yet, though one of the Lotuses will stop them. Oh, no, actually, it's 2 Lotuses to 3 Pyros. That'll work out in favor of the Pyros. Or should, anyway. Yeah, it's a close one. But it does, however, the Warrior coming in there is still a threat. And
they didn't manage to, even though they managed to stabilize on the sides and retake them, they lost them too many times, and this really let them sort of lose map control in the middle of the map. Also losing the commander in the middle of the map meant that they had not enough rating around the south side to get that the enemy constructors down in the same way. They didn't raid as well. I think it was what it comes down to.
They haven't raided as well so far. They're raiding pretty well now. They're just need to take that south. If they take the south side though, there's not a whole lot that stops them. They just need to slow push out. And I think from there they might have a chance. That's about the only chance they have, really. And it looks like Team 2 has not successfully resigned. We're going to see the game continue on. RyMarq and Orfelius still going on as a result of that. They should be...
I think RyMarq feels confident with his Pyros that he can do something.
Yeah.
But there are bombers again, so the next Pyro attack from that route won't work.
And the sharpshooter in the center of the map as well, that's going to be a problem. I think if RyMarq finds out of the sharpshooter, they are going to just throw in the towel. And yeah, Flipstip got it. Okay, that is game. Game 1 goes to Flipstip and norm0616. So we'll have game 2 once Orfelius and RyMarq choose their map, and that was definitely a match.
Well, I think that we really saw really good use of a pocket air player, where although they initially ceded a lot of territory, by raiding both the sides, by establishing that the enemy had started both in the middle and then raiding them around the sides to keep them contained so they're not expanding, and then both expanding down south with the air constructor while they push their commanders forward, which is very important, pushing their commanders forward and not losing them because the enemy didn't have anything to snipe them with, such as...
I think it had more to do with the bombers that got 2 constructors straight from the start and the loss of a commander. I think if they would have played differently, I think they could have done anything, played any style from that point on and won.
Yeah, you can raid with bombers. Is the thing, and that's one of the reasons why the air start is so strong. If you can bomb out an expanding constructor, yeah.
That is very true. However, I still think they did a pretty good job. It's just the one thing. I think that one big thing that did them in was the loss of the commander early on. That's an easy, tangible thing to point to. And so,
and the constructors both in the north and the south.
Yes, that's another big thing.
Stop them straight from getting any more resources early on.
So the Ravens. What we're saying is the Ravens, because they did all of that. A lot of that, at least.
they
think
didn't anticipate. They knew there was air, and they did still try to expand without AA cover.
The pyro attack was also very all in. There's 2 pyros at the start before a metal extractor.
Exactly.
And he walked into a base which had a commander in it. If the commander was not there, and both those pyros being micro-railed, he could have wiped out that entire economy, killed all the wins, and they were wins, so they die fast.
Yeah,
and then shut
that
down the
came
factory.
later.
And the commander would needed to have crawled back, and it would have been really difficult. But he delayed his expansion of the commander just a little bit, and then pushed very aggressively and took a lot of territory. He actually ended up taking more
Water map.
territory.
You guessed it.
Yeah, Inculta wet.
Yep.
Call it precisely.
Now you will have to help me out here because I haven't had a look at the new water. I just saw 2 or 3 games on it.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it's changed a bit. It's definitely different. It's much... Okay, biggest changes, which I'm sure you already know about, is the fact that Skeeters have disarm missiles and Snakes have slow torpedoes.
And I also noticed that snakes have become raiders and are no more expensive submarines. These big 600 metal artillery subs.
Oh, well, there's the sniper submarine. That's about 1,000 metal.
No, but the old snake used to be quite expensive and
oh
quite
yeah,
big.
yeah. Prior to RyMarq's changes. No. Yeah, that was the biggest change overall. Is that C became a lot more lightweight, or rather had a much larger weight gradient. Like it has a weight gradient that roughly corresponds to the other factories, rather than being just so heavyweight as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see what factories RyMarq, feels is better right now, because he's probably going to be dictating the play from him and Orfelius, dictating what factories are good to choose and putting the stamp on the meta, saying this is what he thinks that the meta should be.
On a side note, I see wins in my player list. Did you build that?
Yes.
How did
the
you
win counter?
How did you do this?
I did.
So you have some metadata over games.
Yeah, what
Just
happens is that
host,
whenever
keep track of it.
whenever a game finishes, it figures out what team has any players with units left, and that team they win because they're the only ones left. And then what happens is that gets marked into a table, a WG table, and then the player list pulls that in. So there's a separate widget that handles actually handling the logic of win counter, and the player list can just grab that data when they find it.
So if they play another game next week, it will start continue counting.
It's purely local. So if the next game you watch is between this exact team with these exact players in this exact order, like if it's Flipstip and Norm versus Orfelius and RyMarq, doesn't matter how the order is in game, just as long as it's those teams made up of those players, then yes, that will happen. You can reset the wins. There's a button to do that. But more importantly, it's just as soon as it changes the number of the players involved, it'll reset the win counter automatically.
Okay.
Yeah, so it basically is designed to handle series automatically, rather than having to have a bunch of manual handling to work with that. Anyway, game is starting.
Yeah,
that
it's nice.
So Norm going for C, Flipstip going for Hover, RyMarq going for C, and also Hover from Orfelius. And hope you guys appreciate the fact that I'm going to Dynamic Water. I apologize if there are any graphical glitches. Dynamic Water is known for some graphical glitches, but it should be a lot easier to see underwater here. But that's besides
on this map in particular, it's really, really difficult with the bump water to see under it.
Yeah, although admittedly, Dynamic Water does look quite pretty. I just kind of wish it didn't
Dynamic
have that problem.
water is gorgeous. When you see big explosions on it and it's all rippling and stuff.
That is actually the thing that drew me to the Spring engine like 6 or so years ago. I mean, okay, no, sorry, 8 years ago. It was in high school. I was trying out, because I was looking at what was there and Spring Commander came out, and I was curious about some of the other stuff that was related to it, like Spring, and I noticed one of the trailers had Dynamic Water in it. It looks so cool. But it was kind of experimental at the time.
Yeah, it's just depends on
launcher built.
Okay, anyway, the game itself is much more important. Norm coming in to the south, coming in with a bunch of Skeeters, trying to get through the daggers. Actually doing a pretty good job doing that, although Skeeters don't deal a huge amount of damage, but they should be able to take out a couple tidal generators in the... No, not even. That's
that takes a lot of shots to take down a single a tidal.
Yeah, that's where snakes come in. Like, snakes and Skeeters work really well together, and Typhoons also work pretty well, but Skeeters on their own do very little.
Skeeters, the big advantage is they can disarm something, so they can just disarm it and then just keep hitting it.
Yeah,
hitting it.
it's of no use for economic rating.
In this case, we can see in the lower left, Norm has built a laser tower to stop this Skeeter from taking out his base, and it's already disabled before it's finished.
Yeah, that is the tricky part. Also, Norm very cleverly.
Urchins.
Should I point out Norm's clever jumping?
Yeah, did you saw that? I thought that was really impressive. I like that.
Oh, name tags are screwed up in dynamic water. That's something to point out. Anyway, beside the point. The point.
You can actually choose a shotgun or a very low reload weapon with the jump. So you jump up out of the water, you hit them with that attack, then you go back down below the water.
Yeah, so far that hasn't been done, but it is still a clever tactic, and it looks like Norm and Flipstip are relatively safe at this point. But Orfelius and RyMarq are doing much better than the last game. RyMarq coming in with a few snakes as well, and it looks like, see, Norm right now, Norm's going for Typhoons, which I can totally see why. The daggers are going to be shredded to pieces by that Typhoon. However, the snake is going to present a small problem. Just a small one. Slows the thing down.
Yeah.
Doesn't deal a whole lot of damage.
Once it's slowed, it's also much easier to catch with the hovers, but it doesn't look like he's doing that.
No, the hovers appear to be going in for just a solid raid. Gotta get through that urchin first, but Flipstip, their commander, will not be able to do anything about this. The urchin's not up yet. There is another urchin further north, which is helping. But even then, there's a lot to fight with.
Urchin shoots Hovercraft.
Oh yeah, nice. Torpedoes hit Hovercrafts now. And Gauss hits underwater. Yeah, there's been some blurring
and this is ballistic Typhoon. Ballistic projectiles on the Typhoon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Typhoons are raiders just by basically fighting like two warriors on top of each other.
Yeah, they're meant to be assaults, but they still have the old riot weaponry, which is what they were before riot units. So,
yeah, that's not surprising.
We can see that RyMarq's pulled his subs away. He was doing a fair amount of damage there, but they didn't really get through the defensive wall, so he's pulled his subs back, I think, to deal with the daggers that Flipstip's threatening him with.
Okay, now we have this Typhoon against an Urchin.
Yeah, we have a Typhoon in the north.
Yeah, the Typhoon...
Oh, one Typhoon shreds the Urchin to pieces.
Well, this entire northwest side is completely doomed, especially with the snakes coming in on top of that. The center is a little bit more vulnerable, and Norm looks like they're trying to poke in. They're trying to find their vulnerable position. They are going to have to deal with the daggers, but the Typhoons is not going to be a problem.
Flipstip's raiders are still there. He can take out the lower right corner, but he wants to go into the base.
Flipstip is coming back in here. I just realized I forgot to turn the sound
back on. He gets a nano.
Okay, sorry about that. Forgot the sound. Anyway, so RyMarq's still doing pretty solid. Orfelius gonna have a slightly harder time at this point thanks to that rating, but even then it's not that much. There's been a lot of good defense here. I mean, Orfelius has been keeping their hovers relatively alive. Actually have quite a large army now. And the north attack is still going on. There is a Claymore. We're finally seeing Claymores being used as, wow, nice.
Wow.
As depth charge units. I haven't actually seen that happen yet. I've never seen a Claymore used on sea yet. I've seen it used on land.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird. But
yeah, they're I think they were buffed by RyMarq because I mean they've been a little bit useless a long time. RyMarq's really taken out a lot of the middle of the expansion here, and he's managed to pull back some of his one of his subs.
I think it is important to note how Flipstip took out a lot of the maxes of Orfelius.
But Orfelius has a really good dagger ball up here, where.
Yeah, and it's also nice, or not so nice, to see how RyMarq is spreading out his raiders instead of balling them up. He sends them in one big fight move.
Yeah, that is always a sign of skilled play. That's something that,
I think that
you have to do.
He's scouting with them. But
and
see
Norm,
the big
Norm's commander going down, by the way.
The
yeah, there goes the commander. Commander is out, and Typhoon is trying to stop them, but only managing to kill a handful.
That's why you don't want to sort of whittle down your hovercraft over time. You want to build up a really big ball of them, then you can do a really big move like that. Yeah, and it's still over to the northwest. RyMarq is having a field day, tearing apart all the metal extractors, and at this point, the economy is definitely an advantage of Team Blue. Quite a reversal from last game after what we saw there. That was pretty embarrassing, but it looks like Orfelius and RyMarq definitely in their element. water, literally the element.
Exactly.
I think here you see the pocket play versus the more spread out play, where the pocket play is not working, where they're sitting up in one corner trying to build a strong defensive wall so that they don't get no one player can get sniped. Whereas the more expansion style, the more open style of RyMarq and Orfelius is really working much better this time.
Well, it kind of makes sense when you consider the way the map is laid out. I mean, stuff is fairly even. Unlike Conquest of Paradise, there isn't terrain, or wasn't much terrain, so you have to worry about tactical advantage in that regard. And there's also just, I think there's more metal here. So if you're spread, yeah, there's definitely more metal on this map, on Inculta. So spreading out just gets you all that metal that much faster. Whereas, if you're going for a pocket position, you have to stretch even further to the north, or to the south, in this case the northwest. And at that point, it's just so hard to defend. As we've seen exactly, it's just impossible to defend it effectively.
Yeah, Norm is building up a sub-force to try and make something happen, but RyMarq is almost permanently camped up the top here, and you can see Flipstip in the chat is panicking about this. He's saying, we really need to expand, we really need to take more territory. Which he's currently pushing through the middle to do.
That's not that they're not expanding, it's more that they're losing it.
Yeah, they need to consolidate their expansions more than anything.
Yeah, that's what he said about or mentioned with I would need more solid expand with more pork in between the expansions.
Yeah, but that's
which
not happening.
Kind of makes sense, but they are not allowed to build up.
Well, Flipstip mentioned in the last game being more of a macro player, so I'm guessing Flipstip is really desperately trying to just get as many metal extractors as they can, and aren't really worried too much about before they have a dozen or 2 dozen metal extractors.
On the other hand, RyMarq has been wasting a lot of units the last couple minutes.
That's true, but even then, RyMarq is still way ahead, and there aren't a lot of Mariners.
Look, they don't have any army left.
Yeah, that's the thing. Team Red has no army. Team Red has a couple Quills, but no Mariners. Or, sorry, has 1 Mariner. That's about it. There's really not much that the Red team even has to work with, and RyMarq still has enough of an army. They can just continue to just go around, raid everything, pretty much with impunity. There are a few urchins here or there.
He has a sub-pack just moving around, picking off things here and there, picking off some stray pieces of expansion.
Also, rename suggestion, because as we all know, I have a really hard time with having too many units starting with letter S for some bizarre reason. That letter just vexes me. I suggest we rename the snake to the wolf.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Wolves can swim very well.
Orca. I don't know.
Or rat. Wolf or rat. Either way, it works with the pack.
Okay.
I think wolf works better, though. Rat's a weird pop culture reference.
RyMarq actually going now for hunters. I think he feels like he's consolidated enough territory now. Doesn't need to raid quite so much, so he's building up hunters to try and make sure that
the hunter isn't doing much damage.
It's meant to be used against underwater. Against above water units, it doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, but underwater, it is extremely powerful.
Okay.
Although I'm
learning a lot today.
Actually, well, it's more a matter of its fire rate, as you can see, is really the big deal. But yeah, it just fires a lot underwater.
It shoots 3 torpedoes instead of 1 big torpedo.
However, what I expect to see, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen yet, are some Crusaders. Oh, just I say that one's coming off the line. Okay, never mind. That's exactly what we're seeing. I'm just blind.
We've seen almost every kind of ship now from RyMarq. He's really running the gamut, while Orfelius is probably sticking to a very land style, where he's going almost entirely just daggers. Yeah.
Actually, there are some halberds coming in, which is good to see because the amount of defenses has been increasing quite substantially, actually. If you look at the defense ranges from the red team, they are pretty solidly covered, so halberds are a great choice there. Oh yeah, Annika pointing out sharks. Although shark pack isn't quite something that people think of when they think of the word pack with an animal involved.
You can see RyMarq.
And also, that starts with an S. I mean, Annika, that starts with an S. That doesn't help me.
Seagull.
No, you can see RyMarq's expanding sort of completely uncontested. He's actually making really...
Oh boy, watch out with the claymores. He's killing his own units more than...
Claymores have a massive AoE.
And also, given the amount of above water units that RyMarq has, I don't think those claymores are going to do much damage at this point.
Your claymores are good. They have a ton of AoE, so they're good against daggers. But the enemy's using like just nothing but a ball of daggers, which is what Orfelius has been doing thus far. He's finally moving now to halberds because I think he realizes, the lines are pretty much met now.
And Flipstip switching
in
to
south,
air.
At least. In north, they haven't. RyMarq's just gobbling up territory.
Flipstip is switching to air, by the way. That's something to point out. They're going for 5 ravens right off the bat. And we are seeing more Crusaders. We haven't seen any Shredders come up yet. No Shredders are being built up for RyMarq. And it looks like Norm is going for... No, there's no knowledge. Norm is starting to go for Crusader as well.
I only see urchins and
to go for.
big slow turret creep from the blue team.
Yeah, to the south there's a massive turret creep. And the north
the spam machine
doesn't even matter.
gets turned on.
The north has a lot of turrets as well, just to consolidate the expansions as RyMarq takes them, so it's not a total naked expansion.
It's just lazy turret placement.
I think they just feel like they can just get away with it. I mean, they have so much at this point, they're not wrong. And RyMarq going for Amphib.
If you can build a turret
Proxy Amphib.
beyond 50% of the map, you know, if you can build lots of turrets at 60% of the map, or where he is right now, which is like in possession of a lot of maps,
like,
it's not very central. It's winning, it's good. But it is a little
by
bit...
definition, yes.
Yeah, it is a little bit... I think he's just afraid of his commander getting sniped, so he's leapfrogging them. Because some of those aren't defending... Some of those turrets aren't actually defending anything. There's no metal extractors on them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially the ones right in the center. However, that's not really relevant because that's not where Flipstip and Norm are even paying attention. It's prudent, but it's not quite coming up. And then Typhoon over to the north, once again getting rid of another area. Man, that's 2,200 health. That counts for a lot.
You can see the sub-back is being pulled back to try and deal with it, but he needs to have this more sort of... He needed to have this when this happened the first time. He needed to have his sub-back ready to go.
Yeah, we have Crusaders here trying to get rid of the Claymores. Getting... Actually... Wow, the Claymores knocking themselves out, but it looks like the Crusaders are able to hit the Claymores effectively enough. Still, the Claymore is doing a decent amount of damage. Got rid of one.
Yeah.
And
it's Claymores a bit like rocket jumping Quake figures.
Yeah, that's how they work on land, I've noticed. The one time I saw them on land, they just rocket jumped about 3 times and then blew themselves up.
Yeah.
Seemed to be how they moved.
Big force of halberds coming along the south. Norm is trying to intercept using his corvettes, but yeah. They're just staying closed. Here we go.
And that's... I'm glad to see that. Thank you, RyMarq. Or not RyMarq. Thank you, Orfelius, for using Fire State. Not enough people use Fire State with the halberds. It's something I keep pointing out in my casts. But Fire State, huge deal. And rocket jumping the halberds, which are armored, so good for them. Getting spread out. I'm sure Orfelius appreciates that spread.
He's sniping the
caretakers.
Nano towers, which is really good idea.
Yeah, knocking out the sea production, which is really the biggest threat at this point. The Claymores aren't doing much as long as the halberds are not firing. And out goes one of the Typhoon.
It's the flying boat.
Darn it, I thought I would land it. It didn't stick the landing. I'm so disappointed. Oh, gee, I mean, it was seriously, it was a perfect front flip on that Typhoon, and it blew up on the landing. Completely botched the landing. Just, no, sorry, 3.
Wow.
I'm giving that a 3.
A lot of the ducks died with the commander.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, over to the north. That was another commander kill, and I think at this point, Team Red's just gonna throw in the towel. Like, Red team just doesn't have much to work from. So we are gonna see game 3. That much is certain. This is a very good counterpick.
Really, even though it's obvious the result of this game, we're seeing some really interesting unit combinations. We're seeing halberds flying everywhere, being hit by...
the Claymores! The Claymores are so hyped!
Yeah.
I love it!
Yeah, but the weird thing about the Claymores is that they're so often... There's so much friendly fire, and they so often blow up themselves. You have a tiny small pack of 3 Claymores, and something will get close enough, like a halberd. They'll all fire into the halberd.
And then go on Claymore gymnastics.
Yeah.
Go into their synchronized gymnastics routine. It's just... That's
because they actually do self-damage. There's very few units in the game which will actually damage themselves.
And that's one
they'll damage friendly units, but they won't damage themselves. And Claymores are one of the ones who will damage themselves. So I think most people are just very unfamiliar with how to use the unit.
Yeah, but it is still pretty nice. It's still pretty hilarious to see it just cause a bunch of units to flip around.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some people maybe learning how to use them now that they're made a little bit more powerful.
Although I'm a bit curious if that flipping, like, doesn't matter on what the orientation of the unit is when it lands. That's what I wonder.
It doesn't, no.
Okay.
All that matters is the distance that you fall.
Okay.
For damage.
And cleanup being done. Actually, RyMarq losing one of the Crusaders. Nice catch by the Typhoons, but those Typhoons getting caught up by a ton of halberds. Like, a dozen halberds taking them out, and a bunch of Crusaders as well. This is basically just leading up to the kill move. There's going to be a kill blow within a couple minutes at most. RyMarq has the entire north side, has the entire center. And the force is just coming in here. Halberds are just about to finish off everything, and I think once that's done, Raven's trying to do their best job, and that's not going to work because the halberds are... Oh no, some of the halberds are not fire state, so they are going to be able to fire. RyMarq...
Resign.
Or Orfelius rather probably put that on auto states, but it doesn't matter. That is game 1-1. So 1 match to 1. We're moving on to game 3, and Flipstip and Norm get the last pick of the map. But yeah, that was a very good counter pick on Orfelius and RyMarq's part. Definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I think they're relying a little bit on that as their pocket thing. We'll see if they can pull out the third match, though. Whether they can win on more even terms.
Yeah, Flipstip even pointed out in the lobby chat, let's not pick a C map. That I can totally see where you're coming from, Flipstip. I gotta say, I sympathize. That's definitely a very understandable opinion you have there. Although RyMarq is taunting them, basically saying, "Oh, how would you know you're better if you can't beat us at our own game?" It's like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. Although, if it does work, that'd be hilarious if it actually just taunts them out. That
I think we'll see. Since they have the pick on the last map here, they'll probably pick something they're really familiar with. I don't know, knowing Flipstip and Norm, maybe even something like Red Comet, unless they have some sort of pocket pick.
Maybe Red Comet, I don't know. I'm thinking Ravage is more likely, but then again, for 2v2, it's not great. I mean, I've mostly seen them in 1v1 play. But yeah, Red Comet, Comet Catcher, those are pretty handy macro maps. Like, those are your standard macros. Are piranhas known to work in packs? Is piranha pack a thing? Tarrington's suggesting that.
They tear things apart in little packs. Yeah.
I guess I'd call it a swarm personally.
Yeah, maybe a swarm.
Really, I think piranha is probably a better term for skeeter than it is for snake. Jeez, what is all the names starting with the letter S?
Yeah, it just happened by mistake.
I don't know why I can't deal with that. I mean, I'm getting better at it, thankfully with dagger instead of scrubber. That helps a ton.
S. The S names ending.
Well, okay, that and the fact that
/
seriously,
scrub.
scrubbing. What does a Gauss rifle have to do with scrubbing?
It's a total annihilation. It was just the name
Right.
was just the same.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, not that had the best naming conventions. But yes, that's kind of iffy. So anyway, we are going to be moving on to game 3. Once the map is chosen, they're still bantering about what map to go for. Oh, and it looks like are we getting people in? I think we're going to get another match in actually. I'm not sure what's going on anymore. Oh no, never mind. No, there's been a swap out. It looks like it is... Okay. To point out, there has been a swap. Gogo Dancer and Exponent are taking the place of whoever was fighting Skazi and Blockdechi before, and I can't remember who that was. I think that... who was that?
Parzival and Ninjardo.
That's right, Ninjardo never showed up. So we have a replacement for that team. Thank you, I don't know how I forgot that name, but yes. Parzival and Ninjardo are out, although Parzival... I should point out, small promotional thing, next week, Parzival decided to organize a North American time zone 1v1 tournament. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to join me for co-casting, but that is going to be North American time, since all these tournaments have been European handy times, European Australian handy times. So specifically for North American time zones, it'll be at 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will be next week, November 1st. So go to the forums, sign up, and that will be another tournament. So yeah, a couple tournaments right in a row. There'll probably still be another regular monthly November 1v1 tournament. So it looks like we're just going to have a lot of tournaments in November.
We might just, I mean, this is more similar to the old timing we used to use. And we got a lot of players with that, so for the Australian players, they might be able to get up a little bit earlier. If it's, as long as it's convenient for the European players, that might be fine.
Well, that was the thing, the European players, because I remember it was in the, I want to say May tournament. The May 1v1 tournament or the March 1v1 tournament before we switched over. And Floris, you actually had to go to bed right before the finals. Like, I just didn't have... I had to send you to bed because you were... Well, you wanted to go to bed. You were really tired because it was late in Europe. So yeah, that was the thing.
For me, I'm just going to have to get up at 7 a.m. in order to cast it.
7 a.m. Oh, because that's such a terrible time. I mean, it's nothing...
Yeah,
it's nothing like 2:54 a.m.
Yeah, see,
or 1 a.m.
I'm actually quite comfortable having the earlier times as long as
I'm a morning person.
It's in Australia. I'm just a erratic person. The next game's starting up though, so this is on my favorite map.
Intersection. Yes, great map.
Yeah.
Though it does remind me there's a bit more work I have to do on the camera to get the zooming just right, but it's definitely a thing. It's a good map, very much like it. So yeah,
really good map maker, right?
He's a genius.
Although I gotta say, this one could use... There's some very obvious SSMF love that could be applied to this map. Particularly in terms of normals.
I'm purely a practical, just like...
Design map maker rather than aesthetic.
Yeah,
that's fine. I put it on the list. I'm gonna have to... Me or whoever else is dealing with it. Orfelius was volunteering a bit as well to give SSMF love and general aesthetic love to the maps. This one I think just needs normal mapping and specular mapping, and it should probably.
I'd like to work with someone who can maybe talk me through that process at some point. Because I'd like to make more maps like this. Because I think it's we need more sort of smaller but not 8x8 maps with some interesting terrain, which are vehicle friendly and all sorts of things. I like the setup of having this very safe 4 max position because it's even though the metal spots are 1.59, which is a little bit lower than normal. There's 4 of them. Which means overdrive in your base is not quite good. These are all considerations I put into it. Because you have this very safe base, if I gave you 4 maxes at 2.0 very safely, you'd be tempted to overdrive them. With a 1.559, it gives you still end up with quite a bit of metal there, but it gives you less advantage from overdrive. So you end up with 4 very safe metal extractors, but you're still encouraged to expand.
Yeah, anyway, the game is starting. RyMarq going for air start, Orfelius going for shield bot, and Flipstip going for vehicles, while Norm also going for air start, so we actually finally get to see a double air start air start from both sides in a 2v2 game in this particular tournament. Pretty early on, actually.
Going Swifts, which is good, because if one of them had gone for Shadows, we could almost call the air game for them right
Pretty much. Yeah, that would be it. That would call the entire match, which... That's not surprising they're going for Swifts. Neither player wants to lose. Neither team wants to lose.
RyMarq's even going so far as to turn his factory off and not build anything else until he sees the end of his factory.
Not a bad idea, actually.
Similar ideas about building placement. Raider, same location. Factory, same location.
Mex is almost same location. Norm getting slightly ahead, though, because Orfelius jumped out. Orfelius
now you can
is actually
see
getting
how
aggressive.
Jumping Commander works out for quick expanding.
Yeah, because Norm...
See how quickly, how much faster he accesses those lower maxes.
Yeah, Flipstip and Norm are not communicating on that because Norm has the recon comm, and Norm is in the back, whereas Orfelius is up in the front, and Orfelius has basically expanded, gotten that much more of an economic advantage
already has 2 more maxes down.
Yeah. Well, 1 more. The second one's not being constructed actively.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, wanted to defend the other for the incoming rate. Here, the heat rays against the fields are just... nasty.
Yeah.
And now you can also see how bandits work out against Scorches. If you keep
nice! Orfelius jumping in to trap out that Scorcher. That's just to finish it off. It doesn't quite succeed. However...
1 hit point. It walked away with 1 hit point. But Flipstip, his entire time, his commander was idle because he was focusing on that single Scorcher, which didn't actually do any damage at all. So instead of taking those 2 lower ground mexes, he was just microing the Scorcher fairly uselessly. So you need to have that multitasking capacity.
But if memory serves right, or whatever the word is, you can fight Scorches with bandits.
It's a little tricky. It kind of depends on the ranges. As Scorchers often do. And Orfelius getting comm dived with Raven finishing off the commander. Nice shot, Norm. So Flipstip and Norm are coming in with a very strong advantage. Yeah, wonderfully done. Completely stopping that front expansion and pushing Orfelius and RyMarq back hugely. That's half of Orfelius' economy. I think that might have just... I don't know if they're going to call it there because Intersection does provide a lot of opportunities to come back from that position, but still pretty hard. And yeah, RyMarq pointing to Orfelius, build! Build, darn it, build! get some stuff up, getting outlaws up.
That was an excellent coordination, because he only had a single bomber, which was not enough, and he only had 2 scorchers, which was not enough. But between the 2 of them, you have this incredibly powerful.
Well, usually, if
attack force.
Yeah, in a situation like this, when you lose your commander early on, you have to make sure to even out directly, because you'll only get further behind from this point on.
Yeah.
So, massive counter attack with raiders is usually the best option when you lose your commander, because your opponent has most likely lost a lot of units killing your commander.
Unfortunately,
so
not
you have a
seeing.
small army advantage at the point, so that's the only point in time you'll get to use it.
Yeah, but
the
the problem
bomber
is
actually got
no, not happening.
The bomber got slowed by the outlaw, which allowed the hawk to actually chase it down and kill it, which was interesting. So yeah, there was a bit of a loss of army there.
There was, but at the same time, no raiders are coming from Orfelius. Orfelius not doing that at all. RyMarq is not in a position to do that, having gone for air and also having stopped production altogether. So
Orfelius is very focused on ball building, on trying to get his
which is not the time. Like, now really isn't the time. They might be able to pull it off though. With proper positioning, with proper choice of battle, they might be able to pull this off. Because the Thug-Law should be able to get rid of the Scorchers that are coming up, and then just attacking directly, they might be able to take out, maybe if they're lucky, take out a commander, probably not. However, there has been a bit of a prioritization for anti-air for Flipstip. That might be slightly advantageous, but even then it's really risky. Especially with 4 Scorchers coming in, are they going to go for dives? They are not. They're going to avoid the Thug-Law ball, so at least Orfelius is buying a bit of time as they expand up and reclaim up.
Yeah, he has his convict in the background taking the territory, and he needs to reclaim his commander and turn it into an army as quickly as possible.
And that is what's exactly happening.
Yeah.
Has the blue team seen the commander in the top right corner?
No, they have not, or at least not believe they have. I can double check. Well, okay, it's really hard to tell. But they haven't seen any of the construction in the top corner, so I doubt they've seen the commander.
It's morphing now too, which means once that's finished, it's going to be much more difficult to displace from that area. Which means
I see a big wall of
and a
turrets
proxy
on the right side, which is kind of a
Cloaky
waste. I think that's too much.
Yeah, but there's a proxy Cloaky factory coming up as well. That is planned to be built.
Yeah, with RyMarq's
over to the southwest as well. Ooh.
With all his defenders there, he's basically ceding that territory to Norm. That Norm's going to be pumping Jumpbots down that hill towards it.
And it doesn't even matter because I think this is it. Flipstip coming with about half a dozen Scorchers. They've already taken the southwest. Norm's taking the northeast. Norm's getting that proxy Cloaky, and
Orfelius is making a road
down.
He can't afford to go up that. He doesn't know it, but it was a good thing that he pulled back there because the roach has just finished, and if he had gone up that ramp, he would have lost his entire Scorcher attack to a roach.
Yeah, and he knows that's the most likely thing he'll see.
I mean, it was a wise choice not going up that ramp. Although it looks like that might. Is that going to be undone?
No, he's not going to. He's just going to consolidate his position.
He's just trying to
make sure there's no more reclaim from the commander.
Oh, and RyMarq coming in here. Oh, Norm's commander just about to finish morphing as the Cloaky factory is just about finished. And RyMarq has to worry about a beam laser recon comm with no support forces around at all. No forces around at all, period. RyMarq has no army. There's a hawk.
If you look at, I don't think you have the chat on what Flipstip says. Meanwhile, the shield ball is useless.
Oh no, I see that. Yeah,
he's entirely correct in this.
Yeah,
he
not
keeps
wrong.
A couple of raiders close, and he keeps a big assault force.
RyMarq, I gotta say,
RyMarq is
nice micro.
Here.
Yeah, that is really well done. I mean, it's mostly just getting rid of the factory, but yeah, it's definitely working out pretty well. Just the problem is,
but he'll just
Raven.
get bombed. That's not good play. Come on.
But that's at least something. Although it looks like the problem is Recon Com can jump. As RyMarq apparently forgot.
It is a beam laser.
He didn't get close.
Yeah, didn't quite work. Very close
that.
though, 20 health left. Any support force coming in would kill it, but that's not going to happen. I think this is just game. That's
Shield
2 commanders down.
Flipstip has a dominatrix, and it took one of the shield units, and he's trying to take it out with bandits in it. It worked. Shield balls can be very vulnerable to dominatrix, but bandits will take them out. But the dive's coming in now,
and that's going to
all the scorches are slowed. All the scorches are slowed though. He doesn't want to go in with slowed scorches. He needs to go in with clean, healthy, fresh scorches. But the bomber will take out the. No, it didn't target the outlaw. But if he targets the outlaw, he can take that out. Yeah, and it'll be completely vulnerable to scorches now.
Yeah, and it looks like the delay on that I set for Hitbox, because Hitbox normally doesn't have much of a chat delay, but I did set a 1-minute delay because this is a tournament. So if anyone asks, this is a tournament. That's why. And yeah, it looks like that is actually working because Anarchin's suggesting stuff that is no longer valid since RyMarq's commander died, suggesting that RyMarq should morph. Yeah, RyMarq probably should have morphed. RyMarq actually should have done a lot of things.
I think in that situation, what he needed is I think it's very cute because he was actually turning his gun out so the gun would be shooting sideways and have sort of an angle around the factory, but he needed another unit. And Norm was just in a much better position to come in with a Raven and bomb him.
Well, that's exactly it. And RyMarq was the air player. A bit surprising that RyMarq didn't even have any Ravens of their own that could have come in and just finish off the commander. Because at this point...
He's trying desperately right now to contest air control by building fighters. But there is a Felon in the field, which took out a bomber, which is nice.
Yeah, that Felon... Well, 1 Felon and 5 Thugs. The 5 Thugs is the only reason that Felon even has a chance, and even then, I'm not sure. Because that shield's going down, and nice, clever use of Hawks there, though does get rid of the gets rid of the Ravens regardless. Clever use of Hawks didn't quite pan out.
Yeah,
Quite miscalculation.
Draining the ball with
I would have expected the Felon to die, you know.
Yeah, that was so razor edge.
Didn't realize it was that close, but it's good to know for future reference. Felons will beat Ravens. However, okay, the Thug just about to get out of the Felon range. And the Felon is going up front. I don't totally support this. I really think the Felon should be behind the Thugs.
Look
like,
at all the reclaim. Now they're focusing all their production in that shield lab, and they're building up some sort of an... Ooh,
and that's
Commander.
perfect. And Commander getting killed.
Wow.
Finally gets rid of Commander. Orfelius and RyMarq starting to stabilize slightly thanks to all that reclaim, but only starting to. Half a dozen Scorchers over to the east side of the map. No Roaches in place, although Roach is moving into position. But the Scorchers wisely avoiding it, just going for the front expansions, not going for the main base, as is very good idea.
This is not the sort of map where you dive into the main base, especially against a factory of Roaches. It's the sort of map where you clean them out slowly and methodically. You don't go for the kill until you've sort of strangled them down, which is why there's lots of opportunity for comeback like this, where one of the big things you can march into the base is a Felon ball, which is what they were going with. They've been their plan the entire time to get this off. It might be too late now, but we'll see whether they can pull it off.
Well, it depends on whether these convicts, how well they survive. Because they will be able to at least prepare, they'll be able to keep the ball going.
Gonna root that shield ball so badly.
Oh, there it comes, and down it goes. There's half the shield ball down. Oh, no, sorry, all but the Outlaw. That shield ball is done. And with that, I think we're going to see the game. The reclaim's also done. Like, they cannot secure any reclaim. The Felon is down, and taking another Felon at this point, I don't think that's even practical.
That was excellent coordination between the two, between the land and the air players. You can tell he was ready. He put his Scorchers behind the enemy, so it's behind the shield ball, so it couldn't retreat back into the base. And he was just waiting for the Thunderbird to stun the
tank factory.
Specifically snipe the Felon.
Not sure what the point of that is.
Well, it is a ground switch. That's something. But sides are coming in as well that will be able to take everything out. I mean, there's not much to defend. There is a Kodachi.
I would have preferred
I don't know,
600 more metal units than another land factory.
Yeah, when you consider that would have been 2 Ravens, that would have basically been able to take out, well, anything of their choice. And the sides are in! Getting rid of the caretakers, not that they're really that necessary. Actually, that was a total waste on the part of Norm. Just given the fact that the caretakers aren't really useful right now.
We're seeing the power on the left, though, of a Thug ball.
Oh, what?
That's it.
They resigned right as they're going into their potentially comeback move.
No, it would have been fun to see a couple more fights, but they were dead.
You think so?
He pushed through that and was really strong, but then the Thunderbird came through. Again, we see the power
I
of
missed
the
Thunderbird
Thug ball against it. And the Thunderbird came through, stunned it all, and there was a Dominatrix sitting there to sort of capture them.
Okay, sorry. I just jumped over my camera over from the scythe attack right as that happened, so I didn't quite see the Thunderbird. But yeah, I see what you mean. There is some disarm. Yeah. Man, that was close. I mean, not close. Sorry, that was not a bad attempt at a comeback. That was not close. That was anything but close. The early commander kill was huge. But that was still...
I think there were lots of opportunities there for a comeback. There were lots of sort of very tight moves where, you could see what they were trying to achieve with that Thug ball. If they had gotten the Felon up a little bit faster, a little bit sooner, they'd not lost the commander. I think you're right in identifying that as the major move there.
Yeah. So anyway, that was game 1. That was round 1. Skazi, Black Touchy, Dancer, Exponent. I don't believe that's being played right now, but... Oh, but I'm wrong. It is, in fact, being played right now. It has been played for 2 minutes. So I think we can jump in. Or we can do Google Fry. No, I think we're going to wait until this is done before Google Fry Equinem. But I don't know.
I think the choice of the Recon Commander to push out with you said, it gets them faster onto the ground, and that's the difference of a recon commander. And I was thinking at the time, the problem with the recon commander is if you push out too far, you're very easy to snipe, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and that was a thing I didn't quite notice at the time, but that was definitely educational when it comes to the use of recon comms for expanding. Okay, so let's, I think, just switch over to... You guys want to get into game bracket B? Pick that up.
Sure.
It's just started. It was like 3 minutes from now.
Unless we want to, power through the bracket.
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to
Google Frog.
power much. I mean, we can't do the Google Frog Aquanim Flipstip norm match.
But we still need to get an Arcid and Lorien.
Yeah, and that's going to come in later. Okay, so I guess it'll just be a matter of getting Flipstip and norming as Google Frog Aquanim.
If we run that concurrently, then we can get an Arcid Lorien versus the winner of...
Skazi, Black Touchy, Dancer, Exponen.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll be coming back with Google Frog Aquanim Flipstip norm. I think. Pretty sure. Don't see any reason why not. But once that starts up, as soon as Google Frog and Aquanim... Where's Aquanim? Oh, the Aquanim's in there. Perfect.